Hi everyone, my name is Jen. Thank you for joining me today. And in this video, I am going to teach you how to build this circuit with 4 LEDs that we will make light up for your flashlight project. The materials that we will need today are a proto board, seen here, 4 LEDs, a 27 ohm resistor, a switch, a 3 AA battery holder with 3 AA batteries, some wire that we will cut into approximately 6-inch pieces, a multi-purpose tool which we will use to strip the wires, safety goggles, solder, preferably lead-free solder, but if you use leaded solder, we will just be very careful with our safety and making sure that we wash our hands afterwards, and the soldering iron. So first, we are going to put your LEDs and your resistor in your proto board. So each LED, if you look at it closely, has a long leg and a short leg. The long leg is the positive anode, and the short leg is the negative cathode. So we are going to begin by placing an LED into the proto board. You can see the proto board has a lot of small holes. Each leg will go into an individual hole. And just remember on which side you put the long leg and the short leg. So for me, I put the long leg here and the short leg here. So next, I'm going to take my other LEDs and I'm going to place them into the proto board so that the long legs are on the same side and all of the short legs are on the same side. So my 2 long legs are here and my 2 short legs are here. I'm going to do that with my remaining 2 LEDs. Now I will carefully flip my proto board over, and I want to bend all of my long legs together, and I want to bend all of my short legs together so that they are touching, just like that. You can continue to push them together, even wrap them around each other because you want all of the legs to be touching each other. Just like that. The next step will involve your resistor. We will be using a 27 ohm resistor. To begin, you will bend the legs of your resistor down so that they will fit into the holes of the proto board. You will then place it in your proto board parallel to your LEDs, and it doesn't matter which side you decide to put it on. I will just put it on this side here. Push it all the way in. Now flip it over, and you can see we have these 2 legs of the resistor sticking out of the back of the proto board. We will bend one over to touch the closest group of wires, and we will bend this other one just away on the other side of the proto board so that it's not touching any of these other wires. With this one, we can bend it around this other group of wires so that it is all touching and making contact. For our next step, we're going to use our soldering iron, which is this right here. So make sure you plug it in first and let it heat up, which takes approximately 3 to 5 minutes. And whenever you are soldering or near a soldering iron, make sure that you are wearing safety goggles, as the little pieces of metal that you're soldering could splash up into your face. So you don't want that. So make sure you're wearing your safety goggles at all times. To begin soldering, we are going to have this roll of solder right here in my left hand and the soldering iron here in my right hand. And you kind of want to hold the soldering iron like a pencil right up in this space, and there's this little usually cushioned area, rubbery area that does not get hot, so it's very safe to use there. Right now we are going to go down and I'm going to hold the solder right on this group of wires, and I'm going to carefully bring the soldering iron down and let it touch the solder. You can see once it touches, we got a little bit of smoke, which means that the solder is starting to melt onto the wires. We will slowly move the soldering iron around to make the solder go on all of the wires, as you can see. Right now I will remove the soldering iron, and you can see the solder right there. It looks shiny. It was in liquid form, and then very quickly it's going to solidify, and essentially it's going to act like metal glue, and it's going to keep all of these wires very firmly together. And within about a minute the solder will be dry, but don't touch it right away. Just let it cool for a while just in case it remains warm. We are going to do the same thing on the other group of wires. I'm going to bring the solder, I'm going to hold it onto the wires, and I'm going to carefully bring my soldering iron down. And anytime that you see the smoke coming from the solder, just try not to lean directly over it so that you're directly breathing it in. I'm sitting back a ways from it right now so that I don't directly inhale the smoke. As you can see, I'm just moving the solder around to make sure that it's covering all of my wires. It's in liquid form right now. I'm going to let it go, and it will solidify here very quickly. And there we go. Now all of our LEDs are soldered together. Now that we have finished soldering, we want to make sure that all of our connections were soldered together. So we are going to test our LEDs with our battery pack. So we have our 3 AA battery pack here, and you can see it has a red wire and a black wire. The red wire is the positive end, and the black wire is the negative end. So you remember when we put in our LEDs, we had a short side and a long side. So the short side, I want that's our negative side. We want to connect that to the black wire. So I'm going to hold that here so it's touching. And my long legs over here, now this side is where we put in the resistor. So you can see one leg is here, and this is our other free end of the resistor. So we're going to touch this red positive wire to this free end of the resistor, and our lights should come on, just like that. Now, if your lights do not come on at this step, you may have put your the leads of your battery on incorrectly if you didn't remember which side is your long leg and your short leg side. So if you just switch the directionality of the wires, your LEDs should light up. If they still don't light up, that most likely means that your soldering is not completely touching all of the legs of the LED. So you might want to keep soldering to make sure that all of your connections are made. Okay. Cool. In this next step, we are going to attach some wire to our soldered LED legs. You want to cut approximately 6 inches of wire, and then we are going to strip approximately 1 centimeter on each end of the wire. I already stripped this one, so I am now going to do this one. You will use your multi-purpose tool, and you will put the wire into the smallest opening, or the opening that fits your wire. You will push down firmly and then pull. And as you can see, the covering of the wire came off, and now we have the exposed wire that we will use to solder with. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side right now. And now we have each end of our wire is stripped now. The next step is to take this and attach it to the back of your proto board. So the first thing we want to do is attach this one to the free end of the resistor. So you can take it here and just push it around. Make sure that the 2 wires are touching. You can bend them over like this. You just want to make sure they're touching. You can twist it around if you want. Just make sure that the wire parts are touching. We don't want the coating to be touching. We want the actual exposed wires to be touching. For the next wire, we want to attach it to the group of LED legs without the resistor. So this one you can see has the other leg of our resistor attached. So we are going to attach this to this group of wires right here. And just bend it around however you can so that it is touching this group of wires. Right there you can see it, and right here you can see it. So now you can see these connections are pretty loose, so we want to again solder so that we can make sure that this is permanently attached in both of these locations. So I will once again bring in the solder and the soldering iron, and I will add a little bit of solder over that exposed wire that I just put over this group of wires. That, and this other one I will do the same, adding just a little bit of solder, not that much is necessary. After it is complete, I will kind of gradually tug on these wires just to make sure that they are attached. This one seems good, as does this one. Now that we are done working with our proto board, we are going to work on these free ends of the wire. So you can pick whichever side of the wire that you want, and we will bring in our switch. So you can see our switch has two prongs right here. Now, unlike the LEDs, the switch is not directional, so it doesn't matter which side you put on which prong. So I am just going to pick this wire, and I'm going to carefully put it through the small hole in the switch and bend it over and twist it so that this wire is only touching this prong. You don't want this wire to touch the other prong in the LED. You only want it to touch this one prong. So I will twist that around like that. Now, the last piece in the completion of our circuit is to add the power source, our battery pack. So we will bring in our battery pack. Now you remember we have the red side, which is positive, and we have the black wire, which is negative. And this does matter how we hook this up. So we'll have to go back and remember which side on this proto board was our positive end and which was our negative end. So I remember that this side was connected to my red wire. So that means this is my positive side. So I will bring this out, and I will take these two exposed wires and gently wrap them around each other so that the exposed wires are touching, just like that. Now I will take the other black side of the battery pack, and I will attach it to the other prong of the switch and bend it in. Now you can see that on the top of the switch we have this little circle and we have a line. So the circle means that the switch is off or that the circuit is open. So our LEDs are not on. However, when I flip the switch, the LEDs will turn on, which means that everything in our circuit is now correctly set up, and we have current flowing through our wires and our LEDs are lighting up. So this is exactly what you want to happen. This means that our circuit is ready to go. So for our finishing touches, all we have to do is solder the areas that we just connected. So we have to solder these prongs on the switch to make sure these wires don't come off, and we have to solder this connection right here. So before you solder, always make sure that you take the batteries out of your battery case. You don't want to solder and add all of that heat to a circuit that you have batteries in. So we will remove the batteries, and I'm going to start with the switch. I'm going to start with the switch, I'm going to come down on the outside of the prong. I'm going to set down my solder, and I am going to apply a small amount of solder until it just coats the prong, and you can see it solidified there. Perfect. That is exactly what we want it to look like, that this should be a very solid connection. We're now going to flip it over and just do the exact same thing on the other side. Just like that. So there our switch is completed, and the wires are attached to both of the prongs from the switch. Now, last but not least, we have this remaining connection where we just put these two wires together and attach them. So before we solder, you just want to make sure that your wires are attached, you have them twisted around and touching each other so that we can make the soldering very easy, and we just have to solder at the point where the wires are connected. And whenever you're soldering, just try your best to not let any of this metal part up here, which is very, very hot, touch the plastic coating, or it will burn and melt the plastic coating. So we want to just touch it right here, apply a very small amount of solder, move it around until we have fully covered the exposed wire connection. There we go. And you can end up, like I did here, with a little ball of solder, just like that. We don't really want any more than that, but that is a good amount right there. So now, as you can see, congratulations, you have finished your entire circuit. If we put the batteries back in and flip the switch, your LEDs should turn on. And there you go. This is your completed circuit with 4 LEDs for your flashlight project. Thank you all for watching. My name is Jen, and I had a lot of fun showing this to you, and we will have some other videos telling you and teaching you how you can incorporate this circuit that we just made into your own human-centered design created light source.